Stephen Kelly's with us this morning. Stephen, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, you?
We should talk about that game first, really, because we'll get to the Arsenal situation a little bit later on. But just how important was it for Liverpool to grind that out, having gone down 1-0 early? It's a different type of win from what we've been seeing for them recently, and it shows that they can win games in different ways.
Yeah, it's just a performance from a team that looks like they're going to win the league, basically. They've got the grip between their teeth. They have a level of defiance where they, even if they come up against the ropes, they're still willing to come back. And like that win ugly, everybody expects Liverpool to run over teams and just be always on form, the front three interlinking and just great play, whereas they didn't have it all their own way yesterday. Even though they had most of the possession, they had times where it was frustrating, Tottenham were hard to break down, and they just kept going, and going well down early made it difficult for them, but it was a sign of a very good side that they were able to come back and just keep going at them and keep breaking them down.
At any point, did you think they wouldn't get back into the game?
When Son hit the bar, I thought if he had put that away, I think that would have been it. I'm not sure they would have been able to come back from 2-0 down, but when it was, as soon as I hit the bar, I thought that's it, they're going to come back and win the game.
Because they're Liverpool?
Because of Liverpool, yeah, because of Liverpool. And it was at Anfield, and Tottenham, at the moment, are not as confident or as capable as what they were last season. Going back quite a bit last season, but they're not as good as what they were. Defensively, they struggle. They don't look to be in any way the same team that they were. There's so many players underperforming. Ali, Ericsson, Rose, Aurier, these guys who, you know, not Aurier and Rose, but Ericsson, who's been instrumental for them for the first few seasons, for the last few seasons, and when he doesn't perform to the level they expected him at, and even the position he was in, he was playing almost right wing, and he was having to cover Robertson all game, and from the outset I said there's no way he's going to be able to continue to do that all game, because Robertson is relentless. He will literally still make those runs in the last 5 seconds of a game, and at time you could see he was just getting away from Ericsson, and he wasn't going to track him back, and he couldn't catch him, and I just don't think that was part of his game, and he didn't want to do that either, so it was difficult. But from Tottenham there were some good points, and they showed a lot more resilience than they have been able to, but it was still tough.
It was always going to be a game where the fullbacks were going to be instrumental. Every game at Liverpool is.
Yeah.
But on Spurs' point of view, it was too. Jordan Henderson getting moved out, essentially to guard Danny Rose for a section of the game, was a particularly interesting tactical shift.
Yeah, well, because Henderson's got that ability, he was a winger, so he understands the role a little bit more, and he's got the drive and determination to track people and stay with them and continue. So, like I said, Ericsson didn't want to do it against Robertson and struggles to do that part of the game. You want Ericsson in the 10, not running back towards own goal, where Henderson is happy to do his bit for the team and where he plays, because he just feels that's his role as captain. He is to come in and be whatever the manager wants him to be at any point. He's willing to do that and put that shift in. And you know, Rose is a very good option going forward, and he sometimes his touches are excellent. His final delivery can be questionable at times, but you know, he can be a very good option. And for Tottenham towards the end, they had a little spell where he looked like he was influencing the game, and that's when they shifted Henderson out there.
Are we in a case now at Liverpool where their midfield is simply a horses for courses situation every single week, that there isn't a form 3 midfielders? It's who is best suited to the specific man-marking tasks or offensive tasks or whatever Klopp requires on a given week?
Yeah, he seems to base his team tactically around the team they're playing against and set his team up in the best way that they can go and win a match. And it's not even... Sometimes you see teams set up in a way that they're just going to defend against the team. Liverpool don't do that. He sets his team up and his midfield in a way that gives them the best chance of winning this game, not the best way of just staying in the game. So it's extremely encouraging for the manager, and what is so good to see is their midfield are all happy with it. They don't seem to... There's no, like, disgruntlement between the players. They seem to be happy to come in and out and stick to their task, which is the sign of an amazing coach and an amazing team, that all these players are sticking together.
Is this not his first choice midfield, though?
Yeah, I would say this is his first choice.
I'm not sure.
With Fabinho, you know,
yeah, Fabinho, Wijnaldum and Jordan Henderson.
It has been. Yeah. It has been. I really do think Oxlade-Chamberlain is going to have a say in that conversation over the next couple of weeks.
Instead of who?
You see, that is like Jordan Henderson for me. If we're looking at the possible qualities in a player as a person who drops out, but if you're looking at the possible leadership qualities or the ability to give up what his abilities are to do a job like he did on Danny Rose, then he's top of the queue. So it's a very, very tough call to make, and perhaps it is somebody like Wijnaldum who does drop out for talents of Oxlade-Chamberlain. Like for Manchester City, I know we're 2 weeks out, or just under 2 weeks out from that game. Who are you picking for that? Like, assuming that Oxlade-Chamberlain is coming more into form again, Like, does he force his way in there, or is it an unchanged team? Is the Spurs team, that's the team now?
That's the team.
I don't think Oxlade-Chamberlain has enough games in his legs to get into that team now. Not for Man City, considering how well they control the ball in centre midfield. And you've someone like Kevin De Bruyne, you're going to want a Henderson
to kick him,
and Fabinho to get around them and work hard. Where Oxlade-Chamberlain, he's encouraged to. Klopp has changed his game in the sense that he wants him to be that forward-thinking midfielder, getting forward and trying to get goals. He always said, I encourage him to shoot more, get more assists because for his ability, and that's what he wants of him. And I just don't think physically he's probably ready for a game as big as Man City to be able to cope with their midfield.
Over the course of the season, is there a chance for him to replace? So let's give him 10 games, let's give him 15 games where he plays all the League Cup games, plays in the Champions League, and begins to be close enough to first team selection. Who's he getting in his head of?
If you were to say fully fit all those 4 players, who would you think are the best 4 players, or the best 3 out of those 4? And you probably would say Wijnaldum, Fabinho and Oxlade-Chamberlain. Based on
Ahead of Henderson.
Yeah, based on ability and what they can offer the team. Fully fit, full raring to go, I would say that 3. But what Henderson offers at the moment, and why he seems to always defy the odds and logic as he gets back into the team, and he seems to be really important in scoring a goal the other day, which he hasn't scored for a while. So his importance, even though sometimes you think, oh, he can be replaced, he always seems to stay in there.
Like, it's so easy to make a comparison between this Liverpool side and Alex Ferguson's Manchester United side, just in terms of finding a way to win a game. But there is kind of like a Darren Fletcher-esque quality to Jordan Henderson, where you're like, this guy shouldn't be part of a title-winning team consistently, but he is. And
they love him.
And they love him, and he's brilliant. Yeah. So, like, perhaps the comparisons aren't so kind of loose or aren't so lazy, that there is kind of an element of this team that is a title winner in weight.
Yeah, I know, definitely. They're like, what they've been shown is that ability, because they haven't been steamrolling teams and that free-flowing football that you expect from them. Like I said, they had the lion's share possession, they kept it really well, but you just expect them to roll over teams, and when they can't do that, they need to find another way to win and to play, and they've been able. Tottenham was a big example, because going 1-0 down and showing the resilience and determination. And I think the back 4 have been excellent, but the centre-back pairing has changed quite a lot throughout the season. I feel that has not been an issue, but something that they've been trying to find the best combination to have with Van Dijk. He's obviously going to start, and he's probably one of the best players in the team, but who's going beside him? And with Matip going to be injured now for a little while, I think, and Lovren Gomez has been not really done it, so it's that's the only position that I think is up for grabs. Really, someone hasn't nailed down that spot yet, but they just look like a very accomplished all-round side that's capable of winning in any way possible now, and that ugly side of the game they're showing, which is encouraging.
In a way, it's a pity that the rest of the Premier League hasn't managed to nick a draw or beat them a bit more often, because the rest of the season so far has been really interesting. If you look at how Chelsea are doing, if you look at how Leicester are doing, like, Leicester and Chelsea are 2 points behind Man City. Yeah. If Liverpool didn't exist this year, we'd be like, look, Man City are going to run away with it eventually. But it's interesting how well Christian Pulisic scores a hat-trick at the weekend, right? 2 weeks ago, people were briefing about how he was too scrawny to play in the Champions League. He was not going to make it in the Premier League. And since then, he's come off the bench in Europe, played really well, and started, and, like...
It seems like Lampard's timing was amazing. It's like it was almost the way, not to the same extent, but when Klopp took over at Liverpool, going back to and with Robertson, he didn't introduce him straight away because he felt like he wasn't ready to do what he needed him to do. Yeah. Lampard with Pulisic is similar. It's not for as long a period as Robertson, but he's like, he didn't think he was ready at the start, and he's been kind of easing him into it, and then he released him in the game like Burnley, which he felt like he could have an impact, and he's gone and scored a hat-trick. So it looks like genius managing from Lampard, and if he can continue on like that, it's amazing. But Chelsea have surpassed what they could have imagined this season, and especially with the young players coming into the fore, scoring goals, being creative, and then to think that someone like Rudiger, who I would have expected to be instrumental in their back 4 for them this season, has not really played as well, and Kante. So those 2 players that haven't been involved, and if they can come back and influence them, they put themselves in good chance.
Yeah, like that's the thing, that you kind of think about what Lampard has done. I think you were making the point last week, Ger, about the fact that sometimes the transfer ban can be seen as a blessing in disguise. You've been forced to put young players in, but really you haven't necessarily. I mean, Tomori coming in and being... like, it's too early to call anybody a stalwart this early in their career, but he looks like a fella of way more experience than his years would suggest. Like, you talk about the midfield as well, Kante perhaps being in and out, but like, you look at Sarri last season, and I was thinking to myself that the midfield partnership of Jorginho, especially Jorginho last year, and Kovacic beside him, like, were a partnership that were just ripe for the picking, that they had so much growth to go under. And I felt kind of sorry for Sarri in that respect, that perhaps it was just a little bit of a bedding in period into the Premier League. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Lampard is just a phenomenal manager and is able to do that.
Yeah. But no, when you look at Kovacic and Jorginho the other day, oh my God, Kovacic, some of the play, turned when he was getting pressed in his own half, and he turned in between 2 or 3 players, broke forward. His passing ability, his dribbling, his strength, they look like just so rejuvenated, and I suppose they've got such good legs and around them that makes a difference. But the point I've made as well about the Chelsea team is that everybody's gone on about these young players. There's only probably a handful of them that haven't got much first team experience. A lot of them have been around the leagues and played a lot of games at like lower levels, so they've got the ability to.
They do, but traditionally Chelsea would have just cashed it. Chelsea would have taken the 20 million on offer from Villa or whoever for Tammy Abraham. They just went, look that. So we got you in, invested a bit of money in you. Didn't even have to pay your wage most of the time you were there, and we're taking the transfer fee and we're using that to buy a replacement for Eden Hazard. But now they've got to put them in the team, and it turns out some of them are really good.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They've been forced to do it because of transfer ban, and I think Lampard probably would have wanted to do it anyway because he was looking to change the landscape there slightly and the way things have been going. He didn't want to be that manager just sold young players. He wanted to give them a chance and bring them in. So he's been able to do that without being under too much scrutiny because of this transfer ban, but because of those players have played a lot of games. Like Abraham has scored goals at every level he's played at and done really well. It's just he hasn't had a chance to do it at Chelsea, and now he's in at Chelsea and he's doing it. So
imagine if there'd been a transfer ban when Kevin De Bruyne or Mo Salah had been at Chelsea. And imagine those 2 players had made it the way they subsequently make it. Like, Chelsea had a lot of good players through their hands.
The problem is Jose Mourinho still would have been manager a couple
of
months.
He would have insisted on not picking him, even though, like...
How does Jose Mourinho do in the current Chelsea landscape?
No, he doesn't do well, does he, at all? Because I think let's face it, if he had a transfer ban, he'd have to pick from these players. He'd have a certain pool of players he'd have to pick from.
But he'd be telling them how rubbish they are at training every day.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, if only I could sign some players.
The thing is, though, like, when you say that, he was very encouraging to Rashford. I know he didn't play him at times, but he was a big fan and advocate of him. So I don't know how bad he is at bringing in young players. I think his ability to win trophies, it's fixated upon, and that's been the drive in his career, and that's why he probably does what he does. But I don't think he ignores them that much. If he's forced to do it, I don't think he could.
Let's talk about Arsenal and Granit Xhaka. English football has this fetish for captain, for the role of captain, all the way back to, like, I don't know, probably Bobby Moore, right? Yeah. And for some reason, it seems to be the single most important thing in football. Most other countries, it's like you go up and take the toss, and that's it. We don't hear about these legendary captains from other countries who were like the most important player because they were the captain. We hear about the best players who were the best players as opposed to the players who ended up picking up the trophies. Is it true on a day-to-day basis when you're training that the captain is this somehow revered figure at the clubs you've been at?
No. Not revered. Like if you have a captain that's vocal and is kind of a voice for the players around the training ground, then that's a bit different because they can be the link between the players and the staff and the management. Because sometimes the management can be slightly separated from the players, and it can be that works because they don't want to be too close to them, and that the captain is the medium between those, and that can be very important. But Xhaka, I don't know. I'm like this, I think he's a good player, and when you see him playing for Switzerland, which we have done quite a lot over the last few years, he's very good, and he does well for them. And the incident the weekend, he reacts to something that's happened to him. Fair enough. As footballers, we're kind of treated that we should be, it's built into you that you don't react to fans, you get on with it, you just kind of brush over, water ducks back, that sort of thing, and that's great. But if it's constantly happening, to have a person react, because for the last how many months there's been many thousand people screaming him and giving out to him and booing him, is it that bad a thing that he's done?
I don't think so.
I think
in English football, if you're the captain, you're supposed to be this otherworldly, superhuman person because that's what... So captaincy is somebody you can build up so that you can shoot down and use as a scapegoat in the future. It's like insurance against something going wrong in the future. And that's why I think most of the English media are like, this is terrible. You can't... Because then they can do the same thing to the England captain.
If you look at Arsenal, remember Aboué? Remember Aboué got booed off the pitch that time? So the difference was Aboué wasn't a captain, and then there was an absolute outcry for how bad the Arsenal fans were against him. It's similar. Aboué didn't react, and Aboué was a bit down and you see he walked off and he almost had a tear in his eye. So there's a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
Xhaka's reacted to it because he's probably, I don't know, maybe a bit stronger mentally and just thought, I'm sick of this.
Yeah.
And there's less of an outcry for him because he's reacted to it.
It's true. I completely agree with elements of what you're saying. I'm not sure if I agree with the whole idea of captain being this completely pointless figurehead.
It's not pointless.
Like we've just been speaking about Jordan Henderson, who, like, with the captaincy, I'm not sure. Maybe you will say that it didn't improve or disimprove his leadership skills or anything like that. I think if you're picking out a captain, you can point to somebody in the Liverpool dressing room and say,
"Come
he's
on,
a great captain."
who is the real captain of that Liverpool team right now?
You're going to say Virgil van Dijk.
Exactly. And we all know it. We all know that he's their leader. He's the totem pole. It's him, or maybe it's Salah, or you could make a case for Bobby Firmino. And in future, you're going to be able to make a case for various other of those midfielders who nailed down a spot and who are the first name on the team sheet. But so Jordan Henderson is just like, it doesn't actually matter.
Field general, Jordan Henderson.
Exactly, he isn't. That's the whole point. So the captaincy is bollocks, basically.
I don't think it's complete bollocks. I can see your point and I can see where you're coming from in all of this. Like, what is the actual material impact of it? And I think in other sports, for example, it has a bigger role. I think in rugby, for example, it would have a far bigger
specific role. Your job is to speak to the referee.
So I accept that, but I still think it's not completely unimportant. And I do think Arsenal had a dearth of people to select from. I think now they're going to do what they have to do, which is just hand the captaincy to their best player, which is Aubameyang, and just get on with it. I do think the Arsenal fans, it is a little bit embarrassing the way they've behaved towards Granit Xhaka, just because he has performed at a subpar level, and their frustration comes as a result of him being made captain. But Unai Emery has a relationship with this guy that goes below the performance. He sees this guy as a fiery character, and like the Abue is a great example. Like, it's that was a crushing experience for him, and hopefully it's not a similar thing for Xhaka on a human level.
Yeah, he never come back from it, did he?
No, never know. I think there's been a huge, big outcry and everything about mental health and all this sort of thing, which ties in with this, I think, slightly, because players are subject to so much abuse all the time, and you accept it and you take it and you get on with it because you're a footballer and you expect it to. But then you react once and you're torn apart for it.
Yeah. Look, I think the Arsenal fans should be on trial today for what they're doing. And what the hell do they want? What do you want, Owen? What do you Arsenal fans want?
I would have been sitting in my seat cheering on the team if I was at the Emirates Stadium last weekend. I wouldn't have been one of those people.
Sorry, you're a Kerry football fan. We know exactly what you're like.
I don't know what is the thing that they want? What is the end goal of all of this? Is it to shove Granit Xhaka out? Is it to get Unai Emery on the pulpit this morning and say, I am so sorry for making this Swiss man my team captain? It makes no material impact on how Arsenal have performed this season. It's a very, very handy scapegoat. So I do think you have a point on that front.
What do you ultimately want, though? Do you want a new manager? Is Emery, is his time up? Or do you actually have to sit and work through another year of this and maybe another year of this before you come out the other side and you go, okay, now Emery has all the players he wants. He has the style of play that he wants. Like,
well, for me, with Emery, so he's come in and he's trying to change things and it's great, and it's after Wenger, who's been at the club for so long, so it's a hard task. Like Manchester United, it's very hard to take over after a manager that's been there for a long time has such an influence. But the thing for Arsenal that's been screaming out, and I think anybody could see, is that they need a decent centre-back. And to go in and you have all these good attacking options currently at your club, Lacazette, Aubameyang, good players going forward, and then you bring Pepe, great, he could turn out to be like Henry, I'm not too sure, but he's got pace, he's got an abundance. But to be spending that much money on attacking options when you should be breaking your bank, like Liverpool did, to bring in a centre-back that can absolutely be the linchpin of your team and be someone you can build your back four around. They brought in Tierney, who I think will be a very good player going forward, but he hasn't had a chance to perform yet or play because of injuries. But they've needed a centre-back for years, and that hasn't been addressed. So I'm like, well, why has that not been addressed? Why have you not gone and thought, this is the most vital part of our team, we need to change and we need to bring in, and they brought in David Luiz, who we spoke about at the start of the season. He was never going to be that person, and he was never going to be there for that long.
I wonder if you look at what Man United, who've bought multiple centre-backs over the last number of years and just never got the right one.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they feel like they need to spend the Harry Maguire money to get somebody who's good, and they were unwilling to commit to I don't even know if they were in for Harry Maguire, but
no. Like the one that screams out is Koulibaly. From like, he seemed like, I know he's probably going to be breaking the bank money for most teams, and after Van Dijk was 75, this guy could be maybe more, even though he's not worth more than Van Dijk, but he could be slightly more price-wise because of the way the market's gone. But you would have thought if you're a team that's looking, that's your main. Maybe they haven't found the right person, but that's your main point to try and improve.
Yeah, and they obviously signed that kid from San Etienne, put him straight back on loan.
Yeah.
That's obviously not the answer.
Obviously not really,
They've gone through a raft of youngsters in that department over the last decade, and a lot of them have failed. David Luiz was that plaster option at the end of the transfer window. Your 11 million quid signing at the time. I'm not going to lie, I thought it was a good signing. At this vantage point, I was wrong, and I'll accept that. But also, I don't think I think I'm wrong because of the fact that he ultimately was not the Arsenal signing. He was not the signing for a club that was flailing around at the back. This is a player who could take a class defence and possibly make it even better because of the qualities he has on the ball. But to actually take a defence that has their confidence on the floor and take them up to an appreciably better level, that's not something that perhaps David Luiz could bring. So I'm sorry to be wrong because I love David Luiz, but perhaps he's not going to bring that. I think the bone to pick from an Arsenal fan's perspective is that Granit Xhaka probably shouldn't be in the starting team. A lot of people just don't believe that they look at a midfield of, I don't know, Ceballos, Torreira, Guendouzi as better footballers and a better set of options in midfield, and Granit Xhaka just shouldn't be starting for Arsenal. And then to see this guy being made captain, that is what they're mad with. And then he gets hauled off, and it's like, this is all your fault. We finally have somebody to blame. Shame, Serzi being walked through the streets of King's Landing is Granit Xhaka getting hauled off at the Emirates Stadium against Crystal Palace. That is his moment of shame. That was a moment at the time of the people from King's Landing / the Emirates Stadium to throw whatever they wanted at the person.
But then as well, the thing is about being made captain, I think the fans feel that there's a level of you can't drop a captain. So that's probably why they feel that as soon as it was given to him, then regardless of how he's playing, he's not going to not play. So that probably incensed them even more, which is difficult. Like you said, if they feel that the other training midfield is a better option, then they should play. And if the manager feels they should play, but you shouldn't just play your captain because he's the captain.
Yeah, and the thing is that he took him off because he doesn't care about the captaincy.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter because he
that's
got a superior football culture where he's not in for life. I just picked him. Just made him captain. Exactly. Doesn't matter. I do want to talk about Man United because the Man United fans in my timeline in particular, Tommy Rooney is like, we're back. We're back. We played really well for the second game in a row. It's like we're alive again. Simply by virtue of the fact that Martial and Rashford are playing together, they become better players than when one is missing or when they're playing individually. So are they back? Is this a...
I think it's a far cry to say they're back. I don't think they're back, but they've definitely proved. And I think Solskjaer, for me, the last two games has shown a little bit better managerial skills than he has up until this point, in the sense that they went out against Liverpool and they had to play a completely different way than what they would have done against any other team. And then they went out against Norwich and he changed it. And instead of being the team that was set up to defend and protect and counter-attack, they were a team that were just attacking. And they could have gone there a little bit kind of edgy, knowing that they'd beaten Man City and they're capable of scoring goals, but they didn't. They went for the throat. They set out in a really attacking fashion. They, Martial being back and Rashford together, they will cause anybody problems because their pace and their skill. So, it was a good step forward that he's put them in a setup that allowed them to show that attacking flair. And there's 2 penalty saves. The game could have been 4-5, and I thought overall they played well. And for the goal that Rashford set up for Martial, where he's coming inside in the back, it was just a lovely bit of football and a great finish from Martial. So it was nice to see that from them. And again, it made me a bit more confident in Solskjaer because the 2 games that they've had back-to-back have been very different games, and he set them up in ways to try and win them both.
Yeah, so he's not a chump, basically,
Yeah.
the way he had been portrayed after the last few games before that. And it looks like they're going to have patience with him because they've come out and said they'll have patience with him, and really they've no choice at this point. The worst thing you could do is get rid of him and get somebody in interim. So he has got at least until the end of the season, you would expect at this point. Barring a complete disaster, and there's enough signs that there's a bit of life about them.
Yeah, and they've made good signings. They've not made Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, James has been a revelation, I suppose, and no one expected that to happen. They didn't expect to be thrust into the forefront of it as much as he has been. And then around them, they've got some very talented players as well. So it's just him trying to get the best for them and pick the best team that suits the way he wants them to play. And that was always going to be hard, but I was impressed with them against Norwich, and I felt that was the last two games have been a stepping stone going forward for them.
What the hell do you do about the penalty situation?
I think it was right. Rashford missed, so he stepped away from it and gave it to Martial, whose penalty was better but was still saved. So if your penalty taker takes the first one and then afterwards he's probably not that confident, it's very different to the Pogba situation where he wasn't taken and he was down as the penalty taker. If he steps up, misses, and then for the next one thinks, I don't fancy this one, gives it to someone else, that's allowed. I don't think that's a thing. You know, if they don't have someone in their team that's good at taking penalties, what can you do about that, really? that's not something. Maybe practice them more on the training round.
Yeah.
Especially with VAR, you're probably going to get a lot more penalties than what you would have done before.
Do you try and go back to the days when it was like Dennis Irwin style?
Yeah.
Like one of your full-backs or your centre-backs. Harry Maguire, come on.
Well, yeah.
You've got a big head in you. You can take this.
Just take it, yeah. It's a strange one, but you have to have a player that wants to take them. You have to have someone that's confident enough and feels like, I'm going to slot this away. And even if they do miss, they don't feel like they're can't score the next one. Like most players, like Rashford is a striker, even though he's missed the first one.
Should have taken the second one, right?
Yeah, he should have taken the second one. For me, he should have taken the second one. He should have felt, I'm confident enough. It doesn't matter that I've missed one, I'm going to bang this one in. This is my opportunity to redeem myself. That's more of a plight than, I think, him giving it to someone else. I think it would have been better for him to step up and take it again.
If I'm Aaron Wan-Bissaka's agent, I'm like, here, listen.
I know, there's a choice here.
They're going to get 10, 15 penalties a year. If you step up, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm the next James Milner.
Yeah.
There's loads of money for you there. No?
No, definitely.
Like if you're anybody's agent.
Yeah, anybody. Yeah,
Just not playing at the minute and they're playing well. Is there a coincidence or is it just there's no correlation between these things?
I don't know. I think he definitely offers them something. On his day, he's a very good player. We all know that, and he can drive the team forward. But without him, they're probably a bit more unison. They seem to be a bit more cohesive as a unit. They don't seem to be as dependent for him to perform, because if he's on the pitch and he doesn't perform, the rest of the team feel like, oh, he's not performing, he's having one of these days. That's what it seems like. Whereas when he wasn't there, you don't have to worry about that. They can just get on with it and try and perform as a team together.
So he's out until December. This is a chance for them to understand exactly what they have without him, and then in the meantime to work out what he would do if he comes back. December's very close to January. Do you try and find a buyer in January?
I don't know. It's a very hard situation because they, by all accounts, they're trying to time down a longer contract.
Wow.
So you don't. If that's what they're putting out, that's what they're actually trying to do. But the fact that he's been quite vocal in the sense that he's shown he wants to leave all the time. Do you want a player like, look at Tottenham with Eriksen at the moment? Eriksen showed he wanted to go in the summer. They should have sold him because at the moment he's a fraction of the player he was, and that's based on the fact that he didn't go. Is that going to be Pogba? Pogba wants to go and doesn't see his future being at Manchester United because he doesn't probably see he's going to get Champions League trophies or wherever it's going to be. Cut your losses and sell them and then move on and bring in someone that you feel can be more of a team player and benefit you going forward.